All right, so real quick before I get into this video, we're gonna be dropping our limited edition Reef embroidered t-shirt. We wanted to create something simplistic. The material is premium cotton. It's a little stretchy, and overall we're stoked on it. And once they're sold out, we're never gonna restock these again. So if you wanna be one of the first people to know, sign up for our newsletter, which is gonna be linked in the description below. Carver Skateboards is the OG surf skate brand. Started all the way back in 1996, and it's still one of the most popular brands out there. So instead of reviewing a specific Carver Complete, because they have so many out there, I wanted to just cover the trucks, the C7, CX, and C5. I think just describing the riding feel of each, comparing them, is gonna help the most people out there. The Carver Complete that I own is their CI Pod Mod 29.25 inches. I bought this super early in my surf skate journey, and the wheelbase, not surprisingly, was too small for my preference. So I say this because I rarely use my Carver Complete. Instead, I mix and match wheels and the trucks with other type of decks. That's just what works for me. If you're not comfortable with that, then I would definitely recommend a Complete. Before I get into comparing the trucks, I do briefly want to cover the wheels that came on my Carver Complete. They're the Roundhouse 69mm 78A, and I've got to say, I really enjoy these. They've held up decently, and the urethane is really solid. So Carver wheels I definitely like. The other part of Carver Completes that I briefly wanted to cover were the bearings. I'm definitely a fan of the built-in spacers and washers. If you're familiar with our channel, you know that maybe I say that a little too much. It's just less of a headache to swap out wheels and not having to keep track of the washers and spacers. All right, now Carver offers 3 trucks at the time of recording this: the C7, CX, and C5. The C7 uses a spring and is their most loose and flowy truck. You can pump on it, but it definitely requires engaging more of your body compared to other spring adapters out there like Yow or Smooth Star, which you can pretty much just pump with your front foot. Comparing the C7 to other spring adapters, it's definitely the most stiff, although it is pretty similar from a riding feel to slide surf skates, in my opinion. Moving on, the CX uses a reverse kingpin bushing based design. It's definitely stiffer when you compare it to the C7. The CX is my favorite Carver truck because it still allows you to get aggressive with your carves, but it offers more stability compared to the C7. Although not a massive difference between these two, I just love the idea of a simpler design and not having to worry about adjusting a spring or having the bearings rust. Bottom line, the C7 is loose and flowy, and the CX is tight and, in my opinion, a little more snappy. The C5 uses a reverse kingpin design like the CX, but it's lower to the ground. It's more geared towards use in the skate park and is overall stiffer compared to the C7 or CX, but to be clear, you can pump it more when you compare it to a traditional skateboard truck. All right, so now that you hopefully have a better idea of how these compare to one another, the next question becomes, how do you choose the best one for you? Just being straight up here, the best thing that you can do is testing different variations. So if that means going to your local surf shop, but I realize not everyone has the opportunity to do that. So I would say the 3 most important things to look out for are deck shape, wheelbase, and the wheels. One of the most important things is the wheelbase, and that seems to trip up a lot of people, especially if you don't have any experience and you're buying online for the first time. I'm gonna put a formula in the description below that the Reddit user radioregime came up with. It's super helpful if you have no idea how to get started, and it's honestly better than guessing. So who are Carver Skateboards best for? Overall, I would say that if you want a surf skate that's a little more beginner friendly compared to the other spring adapter surf skates out there, then it's a really solid option. If I were to restart my surf skate journey, I would definitely start with the Carver and then progress from there. The beauty is that with all of these Carver trucks, I still feel comfortable going longer distances, but they still offer the more aggressive carving experience when you compare it to a traditional cruiser. And at this point, if you're still confused on what surf skate brand is best for you, we put together a video covering all of the top brands, describing how they feel compared to one another. So that's going to be linked in the description below. Don't forget, t-shirts dropping July 30th, limited stock. They're going to sell out. I'll see you guys in another one later.